corner.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Progressive Queens. I am Tracy. I'm your host. I'm glad that hostess. I'm glad that you all joined us for today's episode. As usual, remember to comment, like, share, subscribe, and please support us on the Patreon and look for a special announcement at the end. So I want to get straight to it. I'm trying to see if I can turn my phone off because I tend to get phone calls, but it'll be just a second. Hold on just a second. Okay, so I had to turn the phone off. I know I look a mess. Pardon the mess, but I have had a very busy day because 2022 is going to be a huge year for Tracy Media. And as you can see, I have a new light. You can't see it, but it's right over there. So I finally got a new light. I got 2 of the 3 cameras I need. So everything seems to be moving in a good direction, but that is not why you're here. So I've got a couple things to start to talk about. First thing, so Steve Bannon was finally held in contempt of court for refusing to testify during the January 6th or the January 6th committee or insurrection committee. I don't know what they're called, but they had submitted a request for him to testify. And of course, he tried to do the executive privilege. And I'm like, you weren't even working for the Trump administration at the time. So how do you claim executive privilege? That doesn't make any sense to me, but he tried it. And so he refused to testify. He refused to testify. And the committee kept going with, we may hold him in contempt. We may. If it were me, first time he refused, that'd have been it. But apparently it takes the whole Congress to vote in favor of this, which I didn't realize. So they voted in favor of it, and he is going to turn himself in Monday. Now that's the part that really bothers me. Because if you were, well, be honest, this color, and you're poor, you don't have, if you're held in contempt of court, I don't think you would have the option of getting to turn yourself in. I think the police would come after you. I could be totally wrong. Put it in the comment sections. I don't think I'm wrong. Um, like I said, it just infuriated me when I heard, he's trying to, um, he's going to turn himself in. I just want to know, does the committee actually think he's going to testify though? That's the thing. I'm like, oh, I don't think he's gonna testify. I think if he shows up, which he won't, well, first of all, he's gonna turn himself in. So his attorneys are probably gonna sue so that he doesn't have to testify. That'll go into court, what, a year and a half, I don't know, a couple months, whatever. Then if he does testify, couldn't he just pull out the Fifth Amendment, or does that apply in this case? I'm not a legal person. I don't know anything about the law. All I know is we have a speed limit, we have stoplights. That's pretty much my knowledge. But I'm wondering, would he even try to solicit the Fifth Amendment not to testify? I mean, he's determined. And I'm like, well, Trump fired you, didn't he? But then I forgot. He also pardoned him for him taking for stealing money from people who had contributed to the wall being built. You know, that one that Mexico was going to pay for. So this whole thing is just ridiculous. I still think this is a waste of time. Why not let the Department of Justice investigate this? I don't see I don't see the end goal. I mean, this is millions of dollars of things that we already know happen. We already know that Bannon and a few Congress people were in on the planning of this. I don't know what they thought Mike Pence was going to do. His role is largely, at the time, was ceremonial. He's there to make sure the votes count. It's like they thought that him saying that Trump won was going to make him win, and That's just not how it works. So it will be interesting. I mean, we already know. We already know that Trump himself was involved in the planning of the January 6th insurrection. No, let me backtrack. The January 6th terrorist attack, because that's what it was. It was a terrorist attack. And we have to stop calling it an insurrection. So from now on, you're going to hear me refer to it as the terrorist attack that it was. And again, the committee, I still feel like the Department of Justice should be the one doing the investigation. That's the way I feel. I think this whole congressional thing, it's just politicking. We have several issues that we could be talking about, using the money that the committee is using, because none of these things are free. Those are millions of dollars trapped that we could be using for something else. And it's not being used, and it's just being wasted. And we talk about government waste all the time. And these type of committees and investigations, what do they end up doing? Producing things that we already knew in the first place. Like I said before, we know that Trump had a role in planning the January 6th terrorist attack. If he didn't, someone in his cabinet, absolutely not his cabinet, those who were closest to him absolutely had a role in that. So I'm just gonna just pause there, because those are things that I just don't understand. I also wanted to talk about and I want to get this right, the infrastructure reconciliation bill. I'm going to show a small clip, and then I'll come back and tell you what I think. So the first clip you're going to see is from Yahoo News, and I might jump in and talk at some point, but this is after the deal was made. So we're going to share my screen and try to do it. Oh boy. Sorry about that. I thought I was sharing my screen. Try this one more time. See, technology. This is why I need an assistant. Okay, there we go.
Olivia and a few other things. And thanks. Madam Vice President, a little while after this is over, maybe we can talk and see how things are going okay for you. All right?
I'd like that. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay. And we've gathered my cabinet this afternoon at a moment of immense hope and possibility in our view for the United States.
Well, he just lined right out his seat from Jumpstart.
The American people said sent us here to make their government work.
And it's not.
Here to make a difference in their lives.
It's not.
And I believe we're doing that.
No, you're not.
On Monday, I look forward to signing the law of the Infrastructure Act, the Investment and Jobs Act.
I think it was signed, or it's going to be signed this coming Monday. I forget which one it is. So we're going to skip a whole bunch of this blah, 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 blah part, because it's getting on my nerves. So we're going to just skip some parts.
To use whatever assets the federal government had, any personnel in the federal government, we put together a good team. Because when we finished implementing the Recovery Act, it was determined that it had less than 0.2% waste or fraud, period. That's how I became.
Okay, so this is probably not the one that I wanted.
I call Blue Collar Blueprint for America.
Okay, so we're going to turn this one down, because this is not the one that I'm talking about. Let's stop the share. So that's probably not the tape of the clip that I meant to show, because there's one a couple weeks ago where he started talking about, oh, we don't always get what we want. And there's a part of that is true. You set out goals, you try to make them, and they just don't happen. But there's, like I said this before, there should always be a line where you're not willing to cross. No matter what, you're going to stay on your bottom line. And I feel like the Democrats just didn't do that. You did have some people who voted against it, which I'm going to talk about in a couple seconds here. But it's it's like they just had no line. And I question, and I still question, did they really want to? Do they really want a human infrastructure bill to pass? Did they really want anything that they campaigned on? Why waste time campaigning on things that you never were going to do in the first place? And I know somebody's going to say, oh, well, that's what politicians do. And they say things that, that maybe I'm just naive. I'm not about to campaign on something that I don't believe in, I totally disagree with, and I'm not going to do. That's just me. Just me. That's just me. That's how I roll. That's what I do. I don't the false pretenses that the Democratic Party used to get in office, it's wearing thin. And that's why the president's job approval rate has fallen so dramatically because he hasn't kept up with anything that he said. And I know some people argue, well, if the Republicans were in office, you wouldn't get anything. My argument is we're still not getting anything. The the bipartisan infrastructure bill was just a corporate handout. These contracts are not going to go to probably women-owned businesses. They're not going to go to Black and Indigenous owned companies. They're not going to go to Latino or Latinx communities. They're going to go to the same old good old boys network. What good is that going to do to the average person? We didn't get drug prescription negotiations. We didn't get $15 minimum wage, which was supposed to be a part of this human infrastructure, but somehow it got taken out. What is it that you think as a Democrat would make want to? What would you say to someone to vote for you? What have you accomplished? I don't see it. I don't get it. I know the Republicans are trash. We all know it. I know it. You know it. Republicans watching know it. But the Democratic Party just needs to have a seat. And unfortunately, what's going to happen is in 2022, you're not going to have any power because they're going to win the House. The Republicans are going to win the House. They're going to win the Senate. And in 2024, it looks like they're going to win the presidency because people are so tired of making these grand promises, which you don't want. If you don't want it, don't campaign on it. Don't have people, especially people in Georgia who really went door to door campaigning for you. And then you just backtrack on everything that you said you were going to do. And then in 2022, expect us to go right back and vote for it. What? That literally makes no sense to me. Sometimes it's better to deal with the enemy that you know instead of the one that's hiding the fact that they're an enemy. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, well, if you had the Republicans, it would be so much worse. Maybe that's true. But at least I know what their intents are. I have no idea what the Democrats' intents are. I simply don't know. I don't know whether they want, well, I know Biden doesn't want Medicare for all. He said it. They haven't talked about another stimulus since what? We got that first one way back in March, and this is like almost December. Nothing there. The child tax credit is going to end next year. That's a huge blow to parents that were, not that $300 was a whole lot of money, but it helps. It helps to, pay a bill or to buy some groceries or to get some medicine that a child needs. Now that's going to be gone because they can't make it permanent. But you have the majority. And you can sit here and blame Sinema and Manchin all you want, but the problem is they're not the only two. They're the two that the media wants you to put your focus on. But there's a whole bunch of other Democrats who are like them, and we don't pay any attention to them. We just ignore them. We just say, okay, we'll just focus on Manchin and Sinema. And like I said, there's more, and we're not focusing on them. So I just don't think we're going to see a human infrastructure bill. I hope I'm wrong. I'm telling you all, I want to be wrong. I don't want to be right. I don't want to be correct, but I have a really bad feeling that I'm going to be correct. And that's just it's just going to spell disaster, because I said it before. What, as a Democrat, are you going to tell me that you accomplished? $1,400 checks that should have been $2,000, no minimum wage, no student loan debt forgiveness. We're the same situation as before. But of course, Biden did say that he was going to return us back to normal. And me personally, I don't want to go back to normal. I don't want to go back to normal where $7.25 is considered a good minimum wage. I don't want to go back to where people have to be forced to choose between medication and eating. I don't want to go back to where people are struggling to buy homes because we're allowing companies overseas to just buy up all the houses, rent them for exorbitant amounts. I don't want to go back to any of that. I just don't. So enough of that. We're gonna move on to the next topic. I gotta take a big breath, everybody. Woo-wee. Another breath. Another breath. Okay, so I've calmed myself down, but I got another clip to show. And I'm gonna let this whole thing play. And let's see. Let's see if I can share this one. Hold on just a moment. Let me find it. So the clip I'm going to show you is from Fox News 13 in Tampa. I'm not going to say who it is. You'll know. And boy, I got some thoughts on this one. So I'm going to go ahead and share a screen.
As I'm stepping forward, I believe his name is now Joshua Zeminski. He steps towards me with a pistol in his hand, and as I'm walking
We're gonna
towards the
hesitate.
fire,
No,
I
no,
drop
no.
the fire extinguisher and I take a step back.
Okay. When you step back from Mr. Zeminski, what's your plan?
My plan is to get out of that situation and go back north down Sheridan Road to where the car source lot number 2 was.
And did you get back? Were you able to go in a northerly direction?
I wasn't.
Describe what happened.
Once I take that step back, I look over my shoulder and Mr. Rosenbaum was now running from my right side.
Oh,
and
child.
I was cornered from in front of me with Mr. Zeminski. And there were
Oh my gosh. Boy, with these fake
There was-
tears.
people right there. What
Oh, boy, stop.
that's what I run.
Oh, somebody made this. He looking at him like, did I do a good job?
Just relax for a minute, sir. We're going to take a break, about 10 minutes, and please don't talk about the case during the break. Read, watch, or listen to
Yeah, look at the judge. Oh, this is my poor little boy. and then go give him some water. Boy. Oh, you know I got some thoughts of those tears, those fake. Well, first of all, he didn't have tears. Who told him to do that? Who told him to do that? That person needs to be put on trial. That was so terrible. And what's with the judge saying we're going to pause the trial? Why is it that the judge seems to want to find him innocent? It's like the judge is just saying, you can't be. First, he started off with you can't call the people that Rittenhouse killed victims. You can say they're looters, you can say they're vandalists, you can say they're BML, but you can't call them victims, even though that's what they are. And then there's trial. I don't even know why they put him on the stand. That is something that you really, from what I understand, it's not a good idea to put the accused on the stand because the prosecution is going to cross-examine him. I suppose, I'm pretty sure they are. But those tears, I got to bring it back to those tears. I told this story on another podcast, but when I was a child, I used to be involved in a lot of stage plays. And sometimes we as actors were called to cry. I have never seen any actor ever do some mess like that. That would get your role taken away from you. That right there was a poor display of empathy. He wasn't believable. He wasn't even, there were no tears. It's like the lawyers just coached him. Okay, now get up there and act like you're going to hyperventilate and then go, but try really hard to cry. No tears. And just because a person doesn't shed tears does not mean that they're sad, because some people just aren't natural criers. But that right there, oh my goodness, no. He's getting off. Unfortunately, first of all, let's go backwards. This child was 17 years old. His mother, who for some reason hasn't even been brought up on charges, drove her child across state lines to participate in a counter protest for Black Lives Matter. Somehow, a friend of his buys a weapon for a person who isn't old enough to legally have it. What are we doing? The friend that bought the weapon should be in jail. The mother should be in jail. I hope he goes to jail, but unfortunately, I think one thing he's going to get found guilty of is possessing a weapon illegally. I don't think he's going to give account, or I don't think he's going to have to pay for the murder of I think one person was murdered and another person was injured. I have never seen, and who picked the judge? Who sat here and thought, you know what, we're the Klan. What we're going to do is we're going to get a judge who we know is going to fire up our favor. We know he's going to go out there and fight. He's up there making Nazi sign. I'll show you what it is. It's this. He did that several times. He's giving him water. Come on. Who is that? We should find out. And if I had an intern or something to research this, I want to find out so much more about this judge, because everything he's done has just said, I'm surprised he hasn't offered to adopt Kyle Rittenhouse, although I think he's 18 now, or be his godfather, because it's like, I thought judges should be impartial. That's what I always assumed. But how did the prosecution not call for him to be removed? It's like, pardon me, it's like on some end, remember the Breonna Taylor case where the prosecutor purposely lost the case? Like he on purpose lost the case. I think the same thing is going on here. I can't help but think it. The judge is just saying all kinds of things. And it's like the prosecutors are just like, don't, like, why would you, if you saw his name on the docket, and apparently he's had this history before, you should have been working to remove him, like point blank from day one. So I'm going to talk about this more in the next couple of weeks, but I thought I'd know this is a very, 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 very short show. But I wanted to give you a heads up about what's coming up in 2022 and the rest of 2021. So the Progressive Queens is still going to continue. It'll be just me solo, so the shows will be a lot shorter. But at the beginning of next year, I'll be going on a campaign to get some new hosts and kind of retool the show, because what I want to do with this show is, of course, we discuss our topics, but I really want to reach out to especially women who are progressive and are running for office. I think we have a voice that's, of course, different from men, but I really want to do that. So that's what we'll be concentrating on for this show in 2022. So we got about, let's see, we got this week in November, we got the whole month of November, and then the first 2 Saturdays, I think the last show we'll do is the first Saturday in December, because we're doing the all together show. So you'll see this show change just slightly. I'll still talk about politics and how I feel about it, but just some changes, the changes that I wasn't expecting to make, but then now that I'm thinking about it, they're great changes. So in 2022, again, I'll be making more of a campaign to get probably just 1 or 2 new co-hosts, not co-hosts per se, but 2 panelists. And I'll be doing a commercial on that. And then, of course, we're getting a new logo, because I don't like the old one. I know that you don't care about the logo, but I do. I got 2 new cameras that I'm gonna try out. Of course, Thursdays with Tracy will still. Oh, I forgot about Tracy Takes On. That show isn't changing one bit. It's gonna stay exactly the same way it is now. It's been that way from day one. Nothing wrong with that show. So everything's gonna stay that same. So with Thursdays with Tracy, we're gonna have to start having after parties after the live episode. And that you have to be a Patreon, because you gotta go into the Patreon room. So now that we have enough Patreons to do it, of course I'll be in there and I'll be just going live right afterward. So it's going to be really exciting. And that's in 2 weeks. And then, of course, in 2022, we've got the Medicare for All documentary that we're working on. You got Tracy's Top 5 Tuesdays. I think that's what the show is called. I had all this written down, but I don't like looking at my notes, because I always feel like I'm looking down. So just a lot of great things that are happening. And we're going to start refocusing on what the original intent of Tracy Media was. We're not going to go away from politics. We'll still have our political shows and our political, slant on things, but we're going to be doing some other things too. And I hope everyone is supportive. Remember, as always, to please comment on this. I know it was a short video. I promise next week I'll have a lot more to say. But remember to comment, like, share, subscribe, support us on Patreon. Stay tuned for the announcement that follows this show. I'll see you all next week. Have a fantastic day. Hi, everybody. This is Tracy again, and I have another huge announcement. On January the 8th, 2022, Tracy Media is engaging in a 3-hour telethon. That's right. You're going to get to see all of my talents on display. The reason I'm making this video is I want you, one, to buy a ticket. They're only $9.75, and all the funds will go to support me buying some much needed new equipment. I definitely need some new lighting. This old lighting is just going in and out, and it's making things look bad. I definitely want to get the website secured where you can just go to tracymediallc.com and not have to go through steps and hoops and loops to get to the actual website. That's going to cost money, and that's going to cost money that I don't have. So I've decided to do a telethon / fundraiser / please help me. But again, I'm making this video because I want you to email me at tracymediallc@gmail.com with suggestions on what you want me to do. And that's TRACYMediallc@gmail.com. I'll put a poll up in my group, but please support this effort by, like I said, buying a ticket, telling all your friends to buy tickets. I really need the support. I usually don't like to beg, but in this case, I can't get those things that Tracy Media needs alone and out of pocket. I wish I could, because I definitely would. But please remember to email me those ideas of things that you want me to do. Of course, keep it PG-13, nothing graphic, nothing explicit. I'm not going to do those. I won't entertain those type of ideas. But I definitely want your input. And like I said, all the links are in the description, including how to buy a ticket. And I thank you so much for your support, and have a fantastic evening.